how was your weekend? In the words of Flynn Goward this morning, it was horrific for Star Sports. Horrific on the race in front. It's time for Trader Chat, and was it really that bad, Flynn? Favourite after favourite after favourite. And even punters could get 1.5, 1 to 2 when via lane at the off as well, which basically they knew their fate after about 3 seconds in that race.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, racing was absolutely horrendous for us at the weekend. It just felt relentless. It was favourite after favourite after favourite. I was speaking to my boss, head of trading, Dave Jolly, yesterday, and we were saying that in any other business, your busiest days are normally your best days, but in bookmaking, your busiest days can not always be your best days. And we certainly saw that on Saturday, our busiest day of the week. It was certainly our worst day of the week. Let's just start with Warwick. So 6 out of 7 favourites winning at Warwick meant that we were just struggling from the offset. It was really, really bad. The one race that was actually not won by a favourite was won by a 5 to 1 shot, and that was second in and probably the most popular in the race. So even when we did get one beat, it still felt tough. Not a chance, left us with little chance to win on the day when he won the classic chase at 7 to 2. We laid quite a big sum at 7 to 2, and then we laid quite a bit at 4 to 1 as well. The other horse that we needed to beat in the race and out the box actually came second at 12 to 1. That was at Killy. So a real tough big race for us there at Warwick. And then just moving on to the Ballymore Leamington Novices Hurdle, all the money was for Adramel, and he duly obliged. He was a decent loser in the book, sadly. He's now 25 to 1 paid for the Ballymore in March, but I'd be surprised to see him in the first dozen there. It's a really poor race, and there were quite a few yardsticks in there at Warwick on Saturday. So yeah, I can't see him getting close when we get to March. Next destination was probably the result of the weekend and the performance of the weekend in the Hampton Novice.
Laid Fiddler on the Roof?
We did indeed. He was getting £5. I think that's the angle that punters were going for. But he probably was performance of the weekend. He's now 10 to 1 for the RSA and 8 to 1 for the National Hunt Chase. So he's the one that has shortened up from running at the weekend, and another one that seems to have gone from Willie to Paul Nicholls and seems to have improved. So a great weekend for Paul Nicholls, and like I say, he was probably performance of the weekend. Just the last one to touch on from Warwick would be Sky Pirate. He won at 6 to 4, and that did us no favours. There's been a few nibbles on Sky Pirate at 20 to 1 for the Arkle. Not many bookies are priced up, but we had a few requests for that. I think a lot of people thought that he'd probably go to the Grand Annual, save his handicap mark, but they've obviously ran him in a novice chase of the weekend, and he's obviously gone and done the business there, so done no favours for his handicap mark. So I can't imagine he'll probably go Grand Annual. I'd imagine he'll probably go down the Arkle route, and he looked pretty impressive, to be honest. So that was probably the last one to touch on the Warwick. And then moving on to Market Raising, which was the other marquee meeting on Saturday. 5 favourites out of the 7 races winning here, and that wasn't a help, especially after what we saw at Warwick. We thought we had a chance of getting on the blindside beat when the lovable Lil Rockefeller came up there and was real bouncing for Bryony up top. But it just seemed that on the blindside outclassed him, and that was a really poor result, and probably the worst result of the day at Market Raising. And then one just to know was Eileen Dover winning the listed mares bumper. You may be able to add a little bit to this, Johnny, because obviously you had the Willie Mullins horse coming over, but she disappointed. It was a real poor result for us, and she's just now 9 to 1 for the champion bumper in March. So just another one to touch on from Market Raising there.
Yeah, of course, that mare was in the news because of the furore about the VAT and so forth, which I think they've sorted out now in terms of the reality of Brexit. But on the Irish front, Fairyhouse and Punterstown this weekend, on Two-Cast's performance, Dan Moore, I thought, was definitely worthy of looking back. Immediately after the race suggested this horse is going to be running at Cheltenham. He's still a maiden over fence, so he's very, very eye-catching. But then you have The Real Deal, and 22 to 1, an incredible drift win in the novice hurdle, and the aforementioned Envoy Alain, who pretty much just did what he always does, jumped around and won as he liked. What were the repercussions for Cheltenham here? Because I think The Real Deal now is actually emerging as something of a legitimate candidate each way for the Ballymore or whatever race he ends up in.
Yeah, well, surprisingly or not surprisingly for our weekend in terms of the way it went for us results-wise, The Real Deal was by far the worst result in the book for us in the Moscow Flyer. Even though it drifted out, we laid a lot of 16 to 1. We laid quite a big sum at 16s actually each way.
Oh, God.
It's just we were just walking into result after result. He's now gone 18 to 1 for the Supreme. I do think that the race of the weekend probably just fell apart. I'm not sure about your thoughts on it, but the Gordon Elliott favourite and then the Willie Mullins horse, I don't think that they're up to much. I mean, I just don't think they look great, and I don't think they look great in their runs before that either. I don't know, they look like well beaters. So even though Drill Deal's won that and he's improved X amount, I'm sure he is a runner for the Supreme. But I think 18-1 is probably about the right price. He could probably be a little bit bigger, to be honest with you. But obviously, you think slightly different to that, Johnny. So you think he might go well in March?
I think he could go. He certainly needs more than 2 miles. Like when he started off winning his handicap at Navan, if you remember, he lost about 8 lengths at the first hurdle. He was very well backed, and then he won as he liked. Now he was running off 80 something, but that was over 2.6. So when they wanted to land a gamble with him, they went over 2.6, which to my mind implies that they think that's something like his best trip. Just the other one though, Envoy Alain. Like I was a little bit surprised how big he went off because he's never looked like being beaten. Astern for Orange had fallen the day before, which was a bit of a negative, but he was giving him £8, and I think it was a very interesting aspect of the race that there was such a weight differential because we have all these stories of Arkle giving way to all these horses, and it's great because it makes it a lot more interesting, and these really high class handicaps can be interesting. But in this instance, the £8 didn't matter because he fell at the first.
Yeah, very true. I thought you were going to mention all the shrewdies on Twitter talking about the value there, Johnny, and the bad each way on the Styrian Flange. But we did see a few people trying to bet Styrian Flange each way, which was interesting.
What do you do in that instance there? Because each way markets are fine much of the time. You see a lot of bookmakers are making up their own each way odds now, which I think is becoming an increasing trend. But like realistically, a lot of the time it's just an anachronism where the quarter of the odds is just completely unfair for the bookmakers. So what do you do if somebody wants to back them at 9-4 each way?
I mean, in this type of race, it's a bet because it's a real top quality race. You've got top quality horses, and you set yourself up and the market for that eventuality. We kind of do the margins in the morning, and we'll go slightly bigger margins in our favour in bad each way races to try and negate the each way and the place aspect. You can't always negate it. And obviously, we don't want to see punters just betting bad each ways of us. Your account with a lot of bookmakers probably won't last long.
That's absolutely fair.
If you're doing
That's
that.
fine.
Exactly, yeah.
No issue with
that. But if you're betting a bad each way in a big race, I mean, it's absolutely fine. And we did see a bit of that, but him bowing out early doors wasn't a bad result for us. And like I say, it quickly put its bed. We did leave Envoy Alain unchanged at 10-11 for the Marsh. So I don't think he really proved anything at the weekend. I think he just proved that he's still pretty good.
He's jumping, and everything he does is like it's so hard to pick a hole in him. And obviously being unbeaten at Cheltenham as well, there are bankers. It's just we probably have some good novices. I don't exactly know what's going to take him on, but it's just that. And this was evidence the first time he ran the Cheltenham bumper was when he was challenged. He found another gear, and I remember thinking at the time, there's something very special about a horse that can do that in a hard run Cheltenham bumper. But I didn't think he'd be as good as this. But he's just the coolest dude in racing.
Yeah. And what I would say though is when we get to March, we haven't seen him yet be challenged or be in a position where you think, oh, actually, what's he going to do here? But we are going to get that in March. There will be a point in that March novice chase where you think,
I'm not sure we will.
Hang on a minute. I think they will coming down the hill, or I think there'll be an instance at Cheltenham where one of the fences might catch him out, or they'll be going a stronger pace. There'll be something about the race that will make us just think twice. So I can't wait to see it. I can't wait to see him go around Cheltenham and over the fences around Cheltenham, more importantly. But yeah, he was unchanged at 10-11 for the Marsh. And just to touch on the offer that we ran at Punchestown on Sunday, we were running our pipped offer. So it's money back as a free bet if you were beat in second up to a length for Punchestown on Sunday. So we had quite a few punters cop on that. So congratulations if you got involved with that offer there.
Yeah, okay, so relentless and remorseless was some of the words you used, and ruthless in terms of the weekend that you had. It was horrific, you said, in terms of racing, but in terms of football, it was a bit of a damn squib at Old Trafford. The draw wasn't really that much of a surprise, I think, maybe with the way Manchester United set up in the match, but presumably it was a good result. People don't back the draw, do they?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we see no draws and no 0-0s really. So it was a real good week on the match results. Also, we've got Premier League game after Premier League game at the moment, which is fantastic for us in lockdown. We can actually sit and watch something. Punters certainly expected goals in the Liverpool and Man United game because a lot of punters were betting the overs on the line. Obviously, these goals didn't come, and that was good for us.
That was a very interesting aspect of it because it was surprising how big unders was. It must have to do with the fact that Jordan Henderson was centre back. Otherwise, I can't get my head around it because Manchester United were always going to be fairly conservative in the game.
Yeah. I mean, I think it must have been because of the defensive woes for Liverpool. Even though obviously they got a clean sheet in the end, it was all the talk before the game. If you're watching Sky Sports or wherever you watch it, it was all they were talking about was the two Liverpool centre backs. So I'm sure that came into play when the lines were coming out in terms of the over and unders for the goals. Also, just to touch on the fact that there wasn't your typical first goal scorers this week. We see quite a lot of action on first goal scorers. Quite a fun bet to be having. But when you look at the players that scored first over the weekend, John Stones, Aurier, Mount, no goal scorer in the Man United Liverpool game. Those were really good results for us. And obviously the results of the weekend had quite a big impact on the outright market.
4-7 City now.
4-7 from 8-11 when I last spoke to you. So they obviously won 4-0 last night. Real good cross from De Bruyne for the first goal, and they just utterly dominant. Obviously after United and Liverpool drawing, they have gained some points there. Liverpool out to 130 from 5-2. Man United 13-2 unchanged. Spurs at 18s from 14. Leicester are 33-1 unchanged, and Chelsea are 40 from 33. So some claims in the outright market there. And just to quickly look at our book for the outrights, we also talk about the outrights every week, but actually to look at our book, Chelsea by far the biggest loser for us by miles. Actually, we laid plenty of 14-1 pre-season and then 8-1 during the season. We've also laid Man United; they're small losers for us. We've laid 40-1, 40-1. When Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was in trouble earlier in the season. So those would be the two that we want beat. So if City could win at odds on or Liverpool at 130, we'd be pretty happy with that, Johnny.
Yeah, just getting on to the Masters and snooker. John Higgins was obviously favourite. He beat Ronnie O'Sullivan, and then he crept into the final 6-4, but was beaten. And this was probably a decent result, I presume, because he was a hot enough favourite.
I wish I could say that, Johnny, but as you can tell by our weekend, it was obviously a poor result.
Everything went wrong.
I know. Honestly, other than the football this week, it's just been horrific. So Jan Bintao, we laid at 7-4 for the final. He was a big loser for us. So him going and getting the job done was not a good result for us in the snooker, unfortunately.
Yeah, and one of the kids of the future as well, Jan Bintao, encouraging to see, and John Higgins paying tribute to him afterwards. I think snooker might well need a kind of a young prodigy, and if you haven't seen his interview with Ronnie O'Sullivan afterwards, it's definitely worth watching for various reasons.
It was interesting.
It was certainly interesting. Let's get to the NFL. It's heating up. How is it looking in the book?
So Buffalo Bills got through to the next stage. I'm told by our NFL traders. I'm not an NFL aficionado, but I've been speaking to them this morning. They're still the big losers in the outright book, so we could do with them going out this weekend or even when they get to the Super Bowl. Hopefully they don't. The next games this weekend, you've got the Bills versus the Chiefs and the Packers versus the Buccaneers, I'm told. We're still running promotions, and we've still obviously got the Super Bowl package promotion going on. All T's and C's are on the site. I spoke about it last week, so I won't spin through it all this week. But a lot going on in NFL, and that's obviously getting to the culmination stage now.
Yeah.
So have a look at that this weekend.
Yeah, the Bills beat the Ravens in a snooze fest 17-3, but the Packers, the Rams, much more exciting. And that is heating up. We've also got a bit of golf to talk about before we get to what's going to happen this week with the Sony Open.
Yeah, so very briefly, so Kevin Na won the Sony Open. We needed Webb Simpson beat, who made a late charge yesterday. It's always a joy to see Kevin Na playing well because he walked in his putts when they've still got a few foot to go in. So when he's walking in the putts, there's no one better to watch on the green than Kevin Na. And it was good to see him get the job done. A really likeable fella. This week, in terms of the golf, we've got the Abu Dhabi Championship. So the European Tour is back this week, albeit playing in Abu Dhabi. And Rory McIlroy heads the market, so he's back after a few weeks off. He's 11-2. He's got some really good form in the event, which is why he is that price. I don't think he's ever won it, but he's become placed in most of the times that he has played there. So he heads the market and has a real strong field there. And then we've got the American Express over in the USA. So plenty of golf to get involved in this week, among other stuff. When we look at the racing front, we've got Ascot and Haydock on Saturday. The real good racing doesn't really start until the weekend after, when we start to get to Cheltenham Trials Day, and then we move into the Dublin Race Festival. But we've still got Ascot and Haydock on this weekend. We've got the Pegasus World Cup on Saturday at Gulfstream 2, and then plenty of football to get stuck into. Like I just said, we've got Premier League game after Premier League game, night after night. So loads to look forward to, even though we're all in lockdown.
Yeah, hopefully a better week for the firm.
Yeah, fingers crossed. I mean, it can't get any worse. So.
Yeah, and counting down to Cheltenham, only about less than 2 months away now, and we're getting closer. Thanks a million for that, Flynn.
Thank you very much.
And you will have your haircut by the next time we talk to you.
I'm telling you, it's going to be absolutely horrific lockdown haircut.
Wouldn't like to have a book on it.
It'll be a losing one.
Thank you for watching. See you next week.
Cheers.